The nasal cavity is visible. Which bones are going to participate to form the nasal cavity? We remove the tissue, the loose connective tissue that participate to form the external nasal cavity. In the external nasal cavity also you can find some bones, such as the nasal bone. You know we have two nasal bones, and in the midline they are going to make joint with each other. All of the joints in the skull are fibrous joints that we call suture. All of the joints in the skull are a kind of suture except temporomandibular joint. Temporomandibular, mandible is the name of the inferior alveolar bone. And here in each side we have the temporal bone. The ramus of the mandible is going to make joint with the temporal bone, and we call the temporomandibular joint. It is a kind of synovial joint. The only synovial joint in the skull is temporomandibular joint. The rest of the joints are a kind of fibrous joint. For fibrous joint, for example, we can imagine the suture. Suture are a kind of fibrous joint, means they are a fixed joint, and you are not able to have movement in the suture because suture are a kind of fibrous joint. So in this picture, I am able to show you most of the fibrous joint that here we call the suture. The only synovial joint in the skull is the temporomandibular joint. And you know this temporomandibular joint is the synovial joint, so it is a movable joint. The rest of the joints are fixed. They are a kind of fibrous joint that we call the suture. This orange color is going to remember you the nasal bone. The nasal bone in the right and in the left side, in the midline, they are going to make joint to each other and make a suture to each other. It is possible here in some of the person projected anteriorly. Here, it is possible projected anteriorly. But it is possible, for example, you can't find any projection here. So the nasal bone are going to participate in the bone skeletal of the nasal cavity. Another bone that participate are visible here with the green color. What's the name of this joint? This bone, maxillary bone. Another bone that participates to form the wall, the surface of the nasal cavity is here with the, show to you with the purple color. What's the name of this bone? Lacrimal bone. The frontal bone participates, and the concha nasalis inferior. Concha nasalis inferior is a pair of bone. They are single bone that participate in the skull, participate in the face. The inferior nasal bone. What about the middle and superior concha nasalis? The inferior concha nasalis, yes, they are a single, separated bone, but the middle concha and superior concha belong to the ethmoid bone. So around the nasal cavity, if I want to explain for you, if I want to introduce to you all of the bones that participate, I should explain about the inferior concha nasalis. But about the middle concha nasalis and superior concha nasalis, these two processes belong to the ethmoid bone. I can explain that around the nasal cavity, another bone that participates is ethmoid bone. Now, later I am going to introduce to you the ethmoid bone. Ethmoid bone is a complex bone. It is one of the bones in the skull. It is going to participate in the roof, in the lateral surface of nasal cavity, in the septum, in the medial surface of the nasal cavity. So the only bone that participates in the lateral surface, in the medial surface, in the roof is ethmoid bone. One of the questions in the last semester was about this bone. Which of the following bone is going to participate in the roof and medial and lateral surface of the nasal cavity? You should remember the ethmoid bone. Now, another bone that participates to form in the nasal cavity skeleton is a single bone that we call the vomer. Sphenoid and the palatine also participate in the bony framework of the nasal cavity. So if I ask you all of the bone that participate to form the skeleton of the nasal cavity, you should remember the maxillary, concha nasalis inferior, you should remember the nasal bone, you should remember the lacrimal bone, you should remember the frontal, ethmoid, sphenoid, vomer, and palate. Okay? Now about the ethmoid. Why we call the ethmoid bone is a complex bone, because it is the only bone that participates in the roof, participate in the lateral surface, and participate in the medial surface of nasal cavity. The ethmoid bone is such as this picture. If you imagine here, we have the ethmoid bone. The ethmoid bone is such as this, a perpendicular or vertical part and a horizontal part. This horizontal part, if we imagine in each side, we have a box that we call the ethmoidal labyrinth. So ethmoidal labyrinth, ethmoidal labyrinth. Inside of the ethmoidal labyrinth, we are able to show you ethmoidal cell. Inside of the ethmoidal labyrinth, we are able to show you ethmoidal cell. Here is the horizontal plate, perpendicular plate. What's the name of these two boxes? Ethmoidal labyrinth. Ethmoidal labyrinth. If you notice, to ethmoidal labyrinth, lateral to ethmoidal labyrinth here, you can find the orbit. You can find the orbit. So, medial surface of the orbit is lateral surface of ethmoidal labyrinth. Do you get that? Here is the eyes. Here is the orbit. And in medial side of the orbit, here we have ethmoidal labyrinth. Ethmoidal labyrinth consists of two plates. The lateral plate of the ethmoidal labyrinth is medial surface of the orbit. The medial surface of the ethmoidal labyrinth is going to participate in lateral surface of nasal cavity. Do you get that? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Yes? Later I'm going to ask you. Now, it is the ethmoid, again, consists of perpendicular plate, horizontal plate, and two boxes. What's the spatial name of these two boxes? Ethmoidal labyrinth. Ethmoidal labyrinth consists of two surfaces, medial surface, lateral surface. The medial surface of ethmoidal labyrinth participates to lateral surface of the nasal cavity. The lateral surface, the lateral plate of ethmoidal labyrinth is going to form the medial surface of the orbit. In medial surface of the ethmoidal labyrinth, we have two processes that we call the superior concha and medial concha. We call the superior concha and medial concha. So it is the superior concha and here is the medial concha. Again here, superior concha and medial concha. In your book, explain for you that in inferior surface of ethmoidal labyrinth here, we have a process. We have a process we call uncinate process. We call uncinate process. Uncinate process is visible in which part of the ethmoid bone? Inferior surface of ethmoidal labyrinth. It is going to explain for you the ethmoid, but if I want to complete all the things about the ethmoid, you should know here is the roof of the ethmoid, nasal cavity. Roof of the ethmoid is cribriform. From here, the axon of the olfactory epithelium is passing. Olfactory epithelium is here, and here is the roof of the nasal cavity. The roof of the nasal cavity is going to separate, divide the cranial cavity to the nasal cavity. Okay? Here is nasal cavity. It is the roof. Roof is cribriform. From this foramen, the axon of the olfactory epithelium are passing through this foramen. This perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone, this perpendicular plate superior to this horizontal plate, this perpendicular plate superior to horizontal plate, here we call crista galli. Crista galli. So if you notice, here you are going to find the crista galli, the covering sheet of the brain, the lateral external covering sheet of the brain and the spinal cord we call the covering sheet of the spinal cord.
Spinal sheet.
Meaning, what is the external layer? Dura mater. Dura mater. Dura mater, around the brain, a small process of the dura mater is going to connect to the crista galli. Here is the crista galli. If I want to explain for you the crista galli, belong to the ethmoidal bone, and it is superior portion of the perpendicular plate, superior to the cribriform plate. This cribriform plate, and it is the perpendicular plate. The perpendicular plate of the ethmoid superior to cribriform plate we call the crista galli. This crista galli is a site, is a place, an area for attachment of the dura mater. In surgical section here, you are going to look at to the meatus. It is important. Look at here. At the first, look at to inferior meatus. Here is inferior meatus. What's the name of this dot? Nasolacrimal dot. Here is the middle meatus. Here is going to show you the three groups of ethmoidal cells: anterior, middle, and posterior group of the ethmoidal cell. The anterior and middle, both of them, are going to open in the middle meatus. The posterior cell group are going to open to the superior meatus. Here, you are going to look at the sphenoid sinus, and the opening of sphenoid sinus is going to open to the sphenoethmoidal recess. Now, this picture, it is important. Please pay attention. Look at the picture carefully. Which bone are going to participate in lateral surface of nasal cavity? Look at the bone. This red color is going to remember you the maxillary bone, the lateral surface. Which bone are going to participate to form the lateral surface of nasal cavity? Maxillary bone, palatine bone, palatine bone. The concha nasalis inferior, lacrimal bone, ethmoidal bone, sphenoidal bone. And if you notice the spine of the frontal bone, the spine of the frontal bone, and some of the cartilage, nasal cartilage, are going to participate to form the lateral surface of the nasal cavity. This lateral surface is not smooth because of these concha nasalis. This picture is going to help you to remember faster. If you want to imagine which bone are going to participate, remember this picture. To be able to explain for you the lateral surface, please remember this picture. The lateral surface of the nasal cavity. Here we have the maxillary bone. If you notice, you can find this maxillary bone posteriorly is going to make joint with another bone that we call the palatine. So it is maxillary bone. Yes, it is maxillary bone, but you should know the maxillary bone has some process. One of the process of the maxillary bone is going superiorly to make joint with the frontal. Another process is going to participate to form the floor of the nasal cavity. The floor of the nasal cavity is the same that we are going to explain in the roof of the oral cavity. Now, the maxillary bone consists of a process that it is going to participate in lateral surface of the nasal cavity. So the palatine. Now look at the palatine bone. Palatine bone is going to participate in the roof of the oral cavity, in the floor of the nasal cavity. The palatine itself consists of the horizontal and vertical. Horizontal and vertical. This horizontal part in left and right are going to participate in the roof of the oral cavity and floor of the nasal cavity. And the vertical part are going to participate in the lateral surface. So the palatine and maxillary participate in lateral surface of the nasal cavity. Here you can find the lacrimal bone. Lacrimal bone. In the lateral surface of nasal cavity, the lacrimal bone also participates. If you look at here, you can find which bone is going to participate here. The ethmoid. Remember ethmoid? It is the medial plate of the ethmoidal labyrinth. The medial plate of ethmoidal labyrinth is going to participate in lateral surface of nasal cavity. So the ethmoidal labyrinth here is going to participate in lateral surface of nasal cavity. You remember the name of these two processes, middle concha, superior concha, and medial concha. So here, superior concha and medial concha. Inferiorly here, we have the inferior concha. Superior concha and medial concha belong to the ethmoid, but the inferior concha belong to the single bone. And posteriorly here, we have the medial plate of the sphenoid. Here we have the medial plate of the sphenoid. Now look at here. If I ask you which bone are going to participate in lateral surface of nasal cavity, remember this picture. Maxillary palatine, ethmoid, lacrimal, and medial plate of petrichoid, ala of the petrichoid. This ala of the petrichoid belong to sphenoid bone. In the head and neck, about the sphenoid bone, you are going to read in detail. For respiratory blood, only you know the name. The sphenoid has a body, has a trichoid process. This trichoid process consists of two plates, medial plate, lateral plate. This medial plate of the trichoid process that belongs to the sphenoid is going to participate to form the lateral surface of the nasal cavity. And anteriorly, what's the name of this bone? Frontal. The frontal bone has a nasal spine. The frontal bone has a nasal spine. And this bone we call the nasal bone. So the nasal bone also are going to participate to form the lateral surface of the nasal cavity. So the nasal bone also are going to participate to form the lateral surface of the nasal cavity. Do you have any question about all of the bone that participate in lateral surface of nasal cavity? This picture is going to remember you. Maxilla, nasal bone, lacrimal, concha nasalis inferior, ethmoid, palatine, and medial plate of the trichoid process. Okay? These are the bone. Of course, in lateral surface you can find some cartilage. In lateral surface you can find some cartilage. But in this picture, you are going to look at all of the bone that participate to form the lateral surface of the nasal cavity. Now, in this picture, you are going to look at the lateral surface. Again, remember the maxillary. What's the name of this green color? Lacrimal. This purple color. Ethmoid. This white color. Concha nasalis inferior. This blue color. Palatine. And here, this brown or yellow color is going to remember you medial plate of the trichoid process that belong to the sphenoid. Sphenoid has some process. As a body, inside of the body of the sphenoid, you are able to look at the sphenoid sinus. And here has a process that we call trichoid process or petrichoid process. Trichoid or petrichoid process consists of two plates, medial plate, lateral plate. The medial plate of the trichoid process is going to participate in lateral surface of nasal cavity. Look at the picture. What's the name of this bone? What's the name of this bone? The roof of the oral cavity is going to form the floor of the nasal cavity. Now, in the lateral surface, you are able to look at to the frontal spine. You are able to look at to nasal bone and some of the cartilage that participate in anterior part of the external nose are going to form the lateral surface of the nasal cavity. In this picture, what happened? It is important. Some of the questions in comprehensive exam, in the final exam of this semester, it is possible prepare for you in the lateral surface. In this picture, we cut a small portion of the inferior concha to be able to show you the inferior opening, of the nasolacrimal duct. We cut the middle concha to be able to show you all of the structure inside of the middle meatus. Please pay attention to middle meatus. It is important. Middle meatus. To be able to show you the middle meatus, we cut a small portion of the middle corpus. In the middle meatus, as the first, in the middle meatus, you are able to find a projection, an eminence. This eminence we call bulla ethmoidal. We call bulla ethmoidal. This bulla ethmoidal is a projection, is an eminence that it is visible in which meatus? Middle meatus. In middle meatus, I am able to show you a projection, an eminence. What's the name of this eminence? Bulla ethmoidal. At the tip of the bulla ethmoidal, you can find a foramen. This foramen and this projection, this eminence, belong to the middle ethmoidal cell. The middle ethmoidal cell make a bulge, make a bulla ethmoidal in which meatus? Middle meatus. I explained for you that the anterior ethmoidal cell, the middle ethmoidal cell, both of them open in middle meatus. Now in middle meatus, I'm going to show you the bulla ethmoidal. At the tip of the bulla ethmoidal, a foramen, bulla ethmoidal, and this foramen are going to remember you which ethmoidal cell? Middle ethmoidal cell. Do you get that? It is important and easy. Again, the ethmoidal cell consists of three groups: anterior, middle, posterior. This middle meatus cell make a bulge in middle meatus. This middle ethmoidal cell are a sinus produce for you a product, and they are going to open to which meatus? At the tip of this bulb that we call bulb of the ethmoidal. Inferior to the bulb, inferior to the bone or bulb of the ethmoidal, here you can find a notch. Inferiorly here we call uncinate hiatus. Here we call uncinate hiatus. Uncinate hiatus exactly immediately inferior to this bar. What's the name of this bar? Ethmoidal bar. Ethmoidal bar belonging to which group of the ethmoidal cell? Middle ethmoidal cell. So inferior to part of the ethmoid, here you have find the uncinate hiatus. Look at the picture. The uncinate hiatus is going to be continued to a duct that the semilunar duct that we call infundibulum ethmoid or ethmoidal infundibulum. So here is the uncinate hiatus. Uncinate hiatus is going to be continued to semilunar notch or duct that we call ethmoidal infundibulum. Inside of the hiatus semilunar, here we have the opening. This opening belongs to maxillary sinus. Maxillary sinus is going to open here. And the frontonasal sinus duct, the nasal sinus, the frontal sinus is going to open to infundibulum ethmoid. The anterior ethmoidal cell also is going to open to ethmoidal infundibulum. So here, three paranasal sinus are going to open. Which sinus is open to semilunar hiatus? Maxillary. Which group of the ethmoidal cell are going to open to the infundibulum ethmoidal? Anterior. The frontal sinus is going to open in the infundibulum ethmoidal. Now I come back to this picture. Look at this picture. Imagine here is a middle concha. Inferior to middle concha, you have the bulla ethmoidal. At the tip of the bulla ethmoidal, you can find a foramen. This foramen belongs to the middle ethmoidal cell. Inferior to bulla ethmoidal, here you can find the uncinate hiatus. Inside of the uncinate hiatus, you have a foramen. Belong to which paranasal sinus? Maxillary. This hiatus semilunar is going to be continued to ethmoidal infundibulum. The ethmoidal infundibulum is a place that two paranasal sinus are going to open here. The frontal sinus and which ethmoidal? Okay. Here, what's the name of this meatus?
Superior and medial.
This meatus. Really? Middle meatus. In middle meatus, you have a bulge. At the tip of the bulge, you have a foramen. The middle group of the ethmoidal cell open here. Welcome. So, here is the bulge of the ethmoid. At the tip of the bulge of the ethmoid, you can find the foramen. This foramen belongs to the middle ethmoidal cell. Inferior to this bulge, imagine, here is the bulge. Tip of the bulge is here. Inferior to this, we have a hiatus. What's the name of this hiatus? Uncinate hiatus, or semilunar hiatus. This uncinate hiatus is going to be continued to semilunar duct. What's the name of this duct? Ethmoidal infundibulum. This ethmoidal infundibulum is going to be continued to the frontal sinus, and we call the frontal nasal duct. So frontal nasal duct is here, the ethmoidal infundibulum is here, and here is the uncinate or semilunar duct. The maxillary foramen open here. The anterior ethmoidal cell and the frontal sinus are going to open to the infundibulum ethmoidal. So you answer this question. Which of the following sinus are going to open to middle meatus? Maxillary?
No.
Here I explain for you the middle meatus. Middle meatus. Maxillary? Yes. Frontal sinus?
Yes.
Anterior ethmoidal cell?
Yes.
Middle ethmoidal cell?
No.
Yes. Bone is middle meatus. So the bone is middle ethmoidal cell. We can hear all the things in middle meatus are magnified here. In middle meatus, you have the bulk of the ethmoid. Bulk of the ethmoid is going to be appear by which ethmoidal cell?
The middle.
Are you sure middle? Bulk of the ethmoid in middle meatus is going to be formed by which ethmoidal cell? Middle ethmoidal cell. Make a ball. In which meatus? Aka?
The middle.
Middle meatus is important. Look at to me. We have inferior meatus, middle meatus, superior meatus. In middle meatus, we have so many things, such as the bulb of the ethmoid. The bulb of the ethmoid belongs to the middle group of the ethmoidal cell. So middle group open to the middle meatus. Inferior to the bulb, we have an onsillate, a semilunar hiatus. The maxillary sinus is going to open again here in the middle meatus. The hiatus of the semilunar, the hiatus of the onsillate continue by the ethmoidal infundibulum. Ethmoidal infundibulum connect to the frontal sinus. This duct we call frontal nasal duct. So the frontal sinus is going to open to the middle meatus. The middle group of the ethmoidal cell open to the middle meatus. The anterior ethmoidal cell open to the middle meatus, and the maxillary also open in the middle meatus. Do you get that? Okay. Do you want to have a break?
Yes.
Really? Okay, you should wait. But you come just now.
There are just 3 slides here. So after the slides,
Do you want to explain again? It is important. Be sure that some of the questions for final, this is final exam, and for comprehensive exam are going to prepare about the lateral surface of the nasal cavity. Now look at here. Look at this picture.